Hey, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Shelby. And it has been a little while since I have posted anything. The honest reason is just that life has been busy. There's been a lot going on, and I'll give you guys an update here in just a minute. But you have come here because I'm doing my October reading wrap up, and there's not a lot to wrap up, we'll say that. But before we get into the actual wrap up itself, let me just say thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you clicking on the video and spending some time with me. Hopefully I'm able to give you some, I don't know, good advice on books that maybe you might be interested in, and we'll go from there. But if you do end up enjoying being here and spending time with me, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe and give me a little bit of a little comment, show me a little bit of love. I would love to connect with you guys. But let's first get into a little update. It's not, I guess, technically been that long since I've posted like a long form video. I missed like 1 week of an upload, but this video is actually going to be going up a little bit late because I'm filming it the night before it should really go up. Either way, it's been super busy. I was off from work for almost 3 months because I took leave, and during that time I was feeling really motivated. I had a lot of energy to focus on my content because I wasn't really doing much of anything else other than just taking care of myself and my health. And then when it came time to go back to work, that just kind of fell to the wayside, and I got really overwhelmed with work and life, and unfortunately the content and the reading, which you will find out in a second, took a hit. But that's okay. I think we're gonna start to get some balance here soon. There's some things that'll be changing in the house, which I'm excited for. Our roommate, we've decided basically to part ways, and she will be moving out at the end of this month. And so hence why I am filming here, because the bedroom is looking kind of chaotic right now, and everything else that you can't see is looking kind of chaotic because Anthony's mom is gonna move in with us. But that is what's been going on of recent, and so that has really taken an impact on my reading. This month I did not read nearly as much as I normally do. I think I was looking back, in like August I read 10 books, and September I read maybe 9 books or something like that, and October was not. It was not the reading month for me. I ended up reading a total of 4 books. Like, I finished 4 books, but I also started 3 other books that I DNF'd or soft DNF'd. So let's get into it. I do have my laptop here because I wanted to jot down my thoughts so I can make sure I stay on point. But we'll go ahead and start off with the books that I DNF'd, and I'll explain why I haven't finished them or don't plan to finish them. So let's get into that. All right, I got stacks of books all over the place. Also, mind you, if you're looking at my bookshelf right now, it looks kind of tidy. It wasn't like that a second ago, so there will be a video that I'm going to be filming. I was actually going to film it to be uploaded this weekend, but with our roommate moving out, she does have some books at the, like, this in the bottom shelf down here. So my mother-in-law just basically suggested that maybe I wait to do that because I want to do an unhaul and then kind of reorganize the bookshelves, because this bookshelf and the bookshelf in the bedroom are looking crazy. And it's really bothering me, but it's not that long. It's not that long to go before I can start getting into it. All right, either way, let's get into it. First book I have here. This was the first book that I DNF'd, and not intentionally. That is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I was actually really eager and very excited to read this book. This has been a book that has really caught my eye for quite some time. I read my first Grady Hendrix book at the beginning of the year, which I think was like Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed his writing. I thought it was a good time, and I wanted to pick this one up and see what it was all about. And to be honest, I should have probably started it by reading the physical book, because I also have it here. But I told myself that I would just listen to the audiobook so I could get myself into it, because this is when I had started going back to work and I wanted to make sure that I could still read while also kind of going back and forth between work and whatnot. So started listening to the audiobook. It was actually the graphic audiobook, and to be honest with you, I know a lot of people like graphic audiobooks. I don't like them. I find them very overstimulating for me, with all of the different sounds that are happening. I like when it's a full cast. I just don't think I need all of the like extra theatrical elements that are added in. If I wanted a movie, I would just watch a movie. That's just my personal take. I think a part of reading for me is about using my imagination and kind of seeing these things come to life in my own mind, and everybody can kind of visualize these things differently, but with a graphic audio it feels like they're visualizing it for you in a sense. I don't know, but I was getting overwhelmed by the graphic audio, so I ended up putting it down and just never picked it back up. So to be honest, I don't know when I will get to this. How it started was interesting and I was curious to see what was going to happen next, but I don't know, not curious enough to want to pick it back up right now, I will tell you that. The next book, and this one I actually do intend to pick back up and actually finish. This is a reread for me, but this is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I love Alice in Wonderland. I think the story is just so sweet. I should say Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. But if you've seen the movies, then you would know it as Alice in Wonderland. But anyways, it is basically that story, and it is just such a fun, lighthearted read, and also such a fever dream. But I really and truly was kind of, I don't know, I think I really just wanted to read the books that I'm currently reading, so I ended up putting this one on the back burner. I do need to actually leave this out somewhere where I can see it, because I do intend to get back to it once those books are done, which I'll talk about those books at the end of the video if you want to know what books I'm currently reading. But yeah, this one I do intend to actually pick back up. I love it. If you are interested in reading classics, this is a pretty easy classic to get into, so it's a fun one to start with reading. And this one is the Penguin Classics copy, and it also has Through the Looking Glass, which is the second book as well, by Lewis Carroll. And it's kind of funny because I didn't realize in one of my videos, I think my last video where I was picking my TBR, I didn't actually realize that they put both books in one. So that was kind of cool. So there's that. Sorry, you probably heard my mother-in-law's phone in the background. Like I said, she is sitting out here. Well, she was. She went to my room to take a phone call. Okay. The next book I have here, and this again is a soft DNF. I wouldn't even call it a DNF. It's just I'm putting it down for right now. I do intend to get back to it. I am going to finish my 100th reread of Love and Other Words. Not literally, but I've read this book. I've reread this book quite a few times. I kind of reread it every year around this time. And this is by Christina Lauren. I love this book. I didn't get very far. But again, I got sidetracked by like all of these other different books. I really wanted to take my time with this one because this time I'm actually reading it and then trying to annotate different things. So that's why I kind of ended up putting it down, because I just needed something where I felt like I could read and get through a book without having to like sit down and have time to dedicate to reading the book. And that kind of sounds counterintuitive, but like I guess what I'm just saying is, if I'm annotating, I can't listen to the audiobook and then like annotate that way. So I need to have the physical copy with me to be able to read the words to actually annotate it. So that is why I have soft DNF to this one. We're coming back to it though very soon. But I love this book. This one is like a friends to lovers. What else do I want to say? Childhood friends to lovers and second chance romance wrapped into one, which this was the book that made me realize I loved those tropes. This is the only romance that I would consider like a romance that I really enjoy, and it has a trope that I found I really enjoy, or I should say 2 tropes that I found I really enjoy. But yeah, it is a beautiful, heartfelt story. Also, for me, gut-wrenching, and there is, I think, a lot of debate and discourse around this book, because there is something that happens to the male main character that is very like glossed over. And although I think that we should have, I'm sorry, we just got new neighbors and they're actually really crazy. So if you can hear stomping upstairs, that is them, and it's obnoxious. They do it all the time around this time of night. I don't know, they're possessed or something. Anyways, but yeah, it's kind of glossed over, and I think that we would have done more justice for Elliot, our main character, if we had talked more about it, because this is something that I think does need to be talked more about. But overall, though, I love the book. So the last book that I did not actually finish this month is, I'm really sad, People Watching by Hannah Bonham Young. And this is my second book by her. I read Out on a Limb last summer or 2 summers ago. I can't really remember now. Yeah, this was not what I was hoping for, not what I was expecting. I looked at the book and I was obviously very intrigued because of the cover. I thought it was really beautiful and kind of perfect for the fall. It is not really a fall-based kind of book. I think that there's like some elements that kind of talk about like the scenery and the area that they're in, but like it's not very heavily fall vibes or fall related. But what I will say is I did not like the MMC. I thought he was kind of gross. I don't feel like the relationship between our 2 main characters is believable. I think that a lot of the heavier topics are glossed over due to the relationship that these 2 are developing, and the only thing that they really have going for them is their sexual relationship. And I'm just not really a big person when it comes to like spice. I'm not a huge fan of having spice in a book. If there's a couple like pages of that, like maybe there's 1 or 2 chapters that have like a spice scene, whatever, that's fine. If it feels like it is a part of the story and it's a natural progression, I just don't want to read like every couple of chapters like really detailed things about that. I don't know, that really threw me off, and it almost kind of made me feel like the author was portraying our female main character as kind of naive in a sense. And that's not to overshadow, because I'm going to be really transparent. The female main character is a virgin in this book, and our male main character is kind of like he's a player. I'll just say that. That's the nicest word I can think of for what he is. But like her outlook is like when it comes to their relationship in that kind of context is very, I don't know anything. That's the kind of the vibes that I was getting. And I don't know, I just didn't really enjoy that. I really didn't enjoy that. There was like a particular scene where they were talking about like what she does when she's alone, and she basically alluded to not really doing much of anything, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I don't know, I don't feel like that was, I'm gonna leave it at that. Whatever, I don't want to go too deep into that because I also didn't finish the book, so maybe it gets better towards the end. I got a little over halfway through the book though, and I think it's important to know that when you're just it's not connecting for you, especially if you've met the halfway mark, it's okay to put the book down. It could be right book, wrong time, but it could also just be not the right book for you at all. So I put this book down. The bookmark is still in it just because I contemplated picking it back up. I don't think I am gonna pick it back up though. So yeah, I don't know. We might see this in my my pile of books that I'm going to be donating and leaving the bookshelf. We'll see. All right, so enough of that. Let's talk now about the books that I actually did finish this month. And there were some good ones. I'm very excited. We'll start off with the first book, and this one I have physically here with me. This is going to be Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I have been wanting to read this book for a long time now. I've read Babel, and I also read R.F. Kuang's latest book, Catabasis. I'm not sure how you actually pronounce it because I've heard people pronounce it both ways. But, and I loved those books. I haven't gotten into Poppy War yet. I am a little bit, I'm holding out space for that. I'm not sure I'm ready to jump into that. But this one I had wanted to read for a very long time. After I read Babel, I really wanted to get into this, and I'm so glad that I finally did. I absolutely had such a good time reading this book. It basically follows our main character, which I don't remember what her name is. I'm really bad at remembering their names. June is our main character, and she is like really good friends with another writer named Athena, and Athena accidentally chokes and dies. And she is like a beloved author. She's a darling, and June takes it upon herself, because June is not well renowned and her books are not getting the love that Athena is getting, and June decides that Athena is not here, so what harm could it do if I take this book and make it my own? And that's kind of where we go, and it is such a dark and comical book all at the same time. There's a lot of moments where I was like, ooh, this is getting a little creepy. What's going on? Is she losing her mind? But then there were also a lot of times where I was kind of like, this is so unreal. The girl died by choking on I think a pancake or something like that. I just think there's a lot of like juxtapositions and things like that in the book, and I had a good time reading it. I don't know if I said it yet, I gave this book a 4 stars. A very good time, and if you've been thinking about getting into the world of R.F. Kuang, I would recommend reading this one first. That was a very hard one to get into, so I'd probably take some time to get into that, but if you jump right in, jump right in. But this one is a little bit more easy to read, a little bit more, it doesn't require as much brain power, I would say, as Babel or Catabasis takes. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. My next book is actually my buddy read pick that I picked for the month of October, and I was sadly disappointed by this book. This is The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James, and I was so eager and so excited for this book. For one, the cover is beautiful, and I was really hoping that this was going to be like kind of like an eerie, creepy kind of thriller mystery book, perfect for spooky season. And this just didn't really give me that, unfortunately. What did I end up giving this book? I ended up giving this book 3 stars. Not bad, not bad. I would say if you want to read it, it's worth picking up and reading it. My only reasoning for not really enjoying this is my expectations and what I was hoping the vibes of this book was going to be. It just wasn't that. Again, I was hoping for something more like eerie and kind of creepy with like that thriller, like mystery kind of vibe. And it didn't really give me that. And I think as well, this book's pacing was interesting. We get it told in 2 different perspectives. So we get told through Vivian's perspective and what's her name, Carly? Yeah, Carly's perspective. So Viv is Carly's aunt who went missing many years ago when she was working at this motel, and Carly has decided, now that her mom has passed, she wants to kind of investigate a little bit about what happened to her aunt, because it's not really talked about and there was never really any conclusion to what happened to her. So she decides to go to this podunk town in, I think it's like upstate New York or something like that, and she decides to basically work at the exact same motel to kind of discover or uncover what happened to her aunt. And it just kind of fell flat for me. This one really didn't have any surprise factor. I was able to predict a lot of what was going to happen in the book, and for me, that is not really what you want. I think for me at least anyways, I like to be able to try to guess what's going to happen, but I also don't want to be right because I want to be surprised when it does happen. I want those moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't see that coming, or what a twist. This really, I knew exactly what was coming, and so I didn't really enjoy it. But it wasn't bad. I would say if you want to read it, it's worth picking up. Just wasn't my favorite. The last 2 books that I read this month, I'm sorry guys, my computer is just, this is why you silence things before you begin. Anyways, the last 2 books I don't have physical. I believe I read one on my Kindle, and then the other one I listened to as an audiobook. So the one that I read as an audiobook was A Deadly Education, and I had heard a little bit about this book, and I think everything that I'd ever really heard about the book was kind of more like a dark academia kind of novel, but more of like an adult version of Harry Potter. And I guess I could see where people were coming from with that, but I wouldn't necessarily say that is exactly what it is. But I did have a really good time with that book. I ended up giving it a 4 stars. Are my lights going out? Yeah, this one is. But I ended up giving this book a 4 stars. We follow our female main character throughout the entirety of the book, and her background is quite interesting, and the school that they are going to is really quite interesting. And basically, people die. Hence why it's called A Deadly Education. People die at the school. Like, you're trying to graduate and things like that, and it's not guaranteed that you are going to be able to graduate. You may not make it to graduation, essentially. And there's a lot of like kind of things that are going on throughout this entire book that really helped propel the story along, and I had such a good time reading it. So I would definitely recommend this book. I would say this book and the next book I'm going to talk about were probably my favorite books of this month. Now let's get into the last book I read this month, and then I'll talk a little bit about the books that I'm currently reading because I'm super excited about them and I can't wait to share all the things with you guys. I was hoping to do a reading vlog. Maybe I can still do that, but yeah. Anyways, the last book that is on the list is going to be If It Makes You Happy, and this is by Julie Olivia. Anywho, yes, If It Makes You Happy, let me just say, I feel like a total hypocrite because only a few videos ago I was like, romance books are dead to me. Like, I just don't think that they're a genre for me. I don't really enjoy them. I have to eat my words a little bit now because I really, really enjoyed this book. I think this was probably my favorite book that I had read by far this month. This one I gave a 4.5 stars. Wasn't quite a 5 stars. I think the reason why it didn't quite hit that far for me, it was quite a long book, to be honest with you. This was like a 500-page romance book, and I think that was a little weird for me. But then again, when I think about it, the pacing was really well done throughout the entire book. I had such an amazing experience reading this book, to be honest, and I didn't think I was going to. Either way, let me just give you a little bit about the book. So this follows our 2 main characters, which I can't remember their names. I think our female main character's name is Michelle, and our male main character, what is his name? I want to say it's Luke, but it's not Luke, and I know it's not Luke. There is a character named Luke, though, in this book. Whatever. If it comes to me, I'll let you know. But basically, it's kind of like a Gilmore Girls inspired book, and it is like heavily Gilmore Girl coded. Like, and when I say that, I don't mean like they've taken the same characters and things like that and implemented it into the book and just tried to make a version or a copy of Gilmore Girls. No, like, this person understands the Gilmore Girls. They probably are a fan of the Gilmore Girls, and they knew the elements to input to make it feel like that cutesy, quaint, small town, and that romance between Lorelai and Luke. Like, they knew how to create that in a sense where it didn't feel like you were just trying to recreate something that was already done. And that was so refreshing to me. We basically follow our main character, Michelle, where she ends up having to take on running the inn for her mom because her mom has recently passed away. And she does not plan to stay there for very long. She's only there for a little while her younger sister is just finishing up school, and then she is going to come in and take over. But when I tell you, you will fall in love with these characters. You will fall in love with the town. The town becomes a focal point. The town becomes a main character, and I love when that happens. That's, I feel like, to me, such a key, like, that's such a necessity when it is a small town romance. Like, the town should be a main character. The characters should be a little quirky. Like, there should be some elements in there that makes it feel quaint and small and cozy. And she did such a great job of doing that. And we also kind of get to see the town and everything throughout, like, different seasons, but we are heavily focused during fall. Like, there's a lot of different fall activities that take place during this book, and I guess when I think about it, I can't really pinpoint why it wasn't quite a 5 stars, because even in saying all that and in saying that the book was very long, the pacing was really well done. It was really well done. I think that there was a lot of little elements and tidbits that were unexpected that helped move the story along, even though it was a bigger book. So I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. And this book is different, right? Because it's a romance, you already know who the love interests are, you know that pretty quickly, and you know normally 9 times out of 10 they end up together, right? So you already know that stuff is gonna go down. You're not really like concerned about that, but you're always wondering what's gonna happen. Is there gonna be that third act breakup, this, that, and the third? I will just say to you, this gave me everything I needed, and I was very happy with it. Such a good book, and I was really not sure. When I picked it up, I was like, I know I'm picking it up because I feel like I'm getting a sense of like missing out because everybody was reading it. And I felt, I guess in a sense, kind of like this pressure to pick it up because everybody was reading it. But I'm so glad that I did. Sometimes the books are just hyped up for a reason, and that's because they are actually good. And this one is actually good. Anyways, those are all the books that I read this month, but let me just share with you before I go the books that I'm currently reading and that I'm obsessed with, and the reason why I didn't finish Love in Other Words or Alice's Adventures in Wonderland just yet. And that is because I'm currently reading these two. So we've got Blood Over Brighthaven, and this is by M.L. Wong. This book I have seen and heard so much about, and at my local Barnes & Nobles they had a huge display for this book a couple of months ago, and I was really intrigued to pick it up, but I didn't really know much about it, and I didn't know if I was really going to enjoy it. All I can say is thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you so much, Jessica. Jessica is one of my absolute best friends, and that is who I do my buddy read pick every month. And she picked this one. This month was her pick, and she picked a good one. This is a goodie. I will say though, I will talk more in depth about it. Maybe I'll do a reading vlog. I still have quite a lot to get through for both books, so maybe I can still do a reading vlog with you guys. But this book, the chapters are incredibly long for me. There is only, this is one thing I love, this book has a table of contents. I don't think I've really ever seen any books like this with a table of contents. This book has 23 chapters, and it is a little over 400 pages, I believe. So you do the math. Some of these chapters are like 20 pages, 25 pages, 30 pages. But yeah, so I really enjoyed this book and I highly recommend it. I haven't finished it yet, but maybe we'll finish it together during a reading vlog. And then the last book that I am currently reading is Ellen Hildebrand's book with her daughter Shelby Cunningham, and this is called The Academy. This one is super, I think this one is more geared for a younger audience, but I am enjoying it so much. We basically follow our main character and she is going to this private school. I think it takes place, does it take place in Maryland? That's crazy. But it is actually a really interesting way of telling a story because of how the book is broken down. First off, the chapters are not like your normal like chapter breakdowns. Sometimes it'll be broken down like this, like how you would typically see it, and then sometimes it's like broken down halfway. I'm trying to find an example here, but sometimes it's broken down like halfway through the actual chapter, which is weird. And now I can't find an example. Oh yeah, so like this. Sometimes it's broken down like this, where you're like halfway through a page and then basically at the end of another and there's a new chapter, which is weird. But another thing that I really enjoy about this book is you get perspectives from like all of the different characters, but sometimes you don't like know that it's gonna switch. And the only way you really know that it's going to switch into a different character's perspective is like the little horse that's here. It breaks it down so that like you know you're getting into a different character's perspective. But also at the same time, the pacing is really well with this book, and there's a good like sequencing between like when it jumps to a new character. Like it still flows really nicely. Let me see if I can I'm trying to explain this and I just don't think I'm explaining it very well. Let me see if I can find an example. This one is like basically talking about like one character named Audrey, and it says, "As kindly as she can, safe trip home," she says. And then it turns into Audrey's perspective, where now Audrey's talking. So like we kind of are following one character's perspective, but how that character's perspective is already like shaping up to take us into the next character's perspective. And I like that. It's been interesting. I've never read a book like that before. So those are the books I'm currently reading. Again, I'm thinking I probably will do a reading vlog, but if you're interested in seeing that, let me know. But my camera battery is about to die, so we're gonna end this video here. Thank you guys again so much for being here. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you enjoy the video, I'll put at the end another video that you can go ahead and continue to watch. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!